You want to know how corrupt the Department of Justice is under Donald Trump? They just fired over the weekend a senior litigator in their immigration unit because he told the truth to a federal judge in filings and in the courtroom on Friday during a hearing, leading Judge Xinis of Maryland, Federal Court Maryland, to enter a preliminary injunction against the Trump administration to require that Armando Abrego Garcia be immediately taken out of and expatriated from El Salvador and brought back to the United States on Monday because he was under the protection of another federal judge's order of asylum. And the reason that this lawyer, Erez Reuveni, has been canned by Todd Blanche, the bad cop that runs the Department of Justice and Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, is because he abided by his responsibilities and oath to be candid to the tribunal, and he wasn't willing to lie. But to the Trump administration, he violated the orders of a superior. He's undermined the position and prejudiced his client. Now, telling the truth prejudices your client. At the intersection of being a zealous advocate, you must tell the truth or you're going to have your bar license pulled. And I'm going to talk about it all right here on MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Let's talk about this case. We've been talking about this case. Public is up in arms about Armando Abrego Garcia, which the government acknowledged through filings of Mr. Reuveni, which I'm going to read to you. And that's what got him fired, because he told the truth. This is a guy who has had since 2019 an order of protection of asylum, never to be returned to El Salvador because he would face certain death. And where is he? He was boarded on the plane without due process, kidnapped, shackled, thrown on a plane without notice, and sent to El Salvador in return for a $6 million payment to put 250 people that we think may or may not be part of a criminal gang in El Salvador. There's enough evidence that he is not part of that criminal gang to have convinced an immigration lawyer in 2019 that he needs to remain here and never go anywhere near El Salvador. If it wasn't for his wife catching a photo of him being shackled and loaded into a plane or offloaded in El Salvador, I'm not sure she'd even know where he is right now. That's what happens when you don't give notice nor due process. Now, I did reporting, and we talked about it on Legal AF, that Mr. Reuveni, here's his signature on page 19 of his filing, admitted he's the acting deputy director, Office of Immigration Litigation. It says he reports to Yakov Roth, the acting assistant attorney general, civil division, but his immediate boss, wait for this coincidence, not so coincidental, Drew Ensign. Who's Drew Ensign? While Mr. Reuveni was telling the truth to the Judge Xinis about the fact that he knew, and ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, knew about the judge's order in 2019 of protection and asylum for Mr. Abrego Garcia, and they still loaded him on the plane. I mean, that's a damning confession, and he did it again in court. While he was doing that, Drew Ensign was getting roasted and cross-examined to within an inch of his life at almost the same time in Judge Boasberg's courtroom about the bad faith actions of the Trump administration in using the Alien Enemies Act and violating that judge's order. Oh, I mean, this is like a split screen. Now, when just to show you, this is all about forcing lawyers to violate their oaths of office and lie to judges, and the undermining of credibility for the Department of Justice going forward under Trump, because what federal judge is going to take the word of a Department of Justice lawyer who now publicly has been fired because he's been found insubordinate because he told the truth? And Judge Xinis, Paula Zennis, on Monday, I'm sure, based on this reporting in the New York Times, is going to get to the bottom of it. Now, Erez Reuveni was just promoted 2 weeks ago. His boss, his immediate boss, Drew Ensign, he told everybody in a mass email that that he's a hardworking guy, a talented guy. He's doing a lot of great things with our sanctuary city litigation. We love Erez Reuveni, until he started to tell the truth in court. And then he got fired for, quote, failing to follow a directive of your superiors, for conduct prejudicial to your client. You know you're in an upside down world where everybody's bar license is at risk. That includes Todd Blanche. That includes Pam Bondi. When you are forcing your lawyers for the Department of Justice to look a federal judge in the eye and under penalty of death or being transferred or fired, lie to that judge. There is, for those that are wondering, a code of conduct and ethics that lawyers are sworn to uphold, and officers of the court, which I am and everybody that we're talking about here is sworn to uphold. It's the code of professional responsibility, or the code of professional conduct. And it has a whole chapter about candor to the tribunal, candor to your adversary. Yes, you need to be a zealous advocate, but you can't do it at the expense of your ability to tell the truth. And there's no other way to put it. He just got canned for telling the truth. Let me tell you how I know that, because I caught on page 3 of the filing that he made a couple of days ago. Here it is. And I thought it was very interesting. I made a big thing about it in a hot take. On March 15th, this is what Mr. Reuveni wrote on behalf of the government. Although ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, was aware of his protection, Abrego Garcia's protection from removal to El Salvador, Abrego Garcia was removed to El Salvador because of an administrative error. I was like, that is an amazing confession that I've rarely seen in a Trump filing. Apparently, that's what pissed off Todd Blanche. And if that didn't piss off Todd Blanche, as they've moved to appeal, a judge who, and get this, Stephen Miller, the non-lawyer lawyer who's really running the show back there, he's the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes as the White House deputy White House counsel or a deputy White House chief of staff. He's the one that loves immigration, loves putting children in cages. That was his idea in the first administration. He called the judge a Marxist and said, this Marxist judge, by the way, who was confirmed by the Senate after Obama put her on the bench, a Yale law graduate, by a huge margin. She now thinks she's the president of El Salvador because she's ordered the return of somebody we can't get back from El Salvador. Let's hear what the judge has to say about that. Because the judge just issued her memorandum opinion in which she denied granting the Trump administration a stay while they go run off like cowards to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals rather than try to get this guy back, having now admitted that they violated. And there's a few places in her order that I am sure got Todd Blanche, who serves the position as the number 2 in the Department of Justice, but we refer to that as the bad cop position. I'm sure that got him in a lather. On page 2, she, quote, in denying the motion for stay and keeping her preliminary injunction in place, requiring that Abrego Garcia come back here, ordered back here by Monday. Here's what she has to say. This is top of page 2 of her order denying the stay. Neither the United States nor El Salvador have told anyone why he has returned to the very country to which he cannot return or why he is detained in that prison. And then she quotes Reuveni, the lawyer who just got fired. Reuveni, we have nothing to say on the merits. We concede he should not have been removed to El Salvador. The court, what basis is he held? Why is he in CICOT, which is the Supermax prison in El Salvador, of all places? Mr. Reuveni, I don't know. That information has not been given to me. I don't know. Judge continued, the silence is telling. As defendants acknowledged they had no legal authority to arrest him, no justification to detain him, and no grounds to send him to El Salvador, let alone deliver him into one of the most dangerous prisons in the Western Hemisphere. Having confessed grievous error, that's Reuveni. The defendants now argue that this court lacks the power to hear this case and they lack the power to order Abrego Garcia's return. We're not done with Mr. Reuveni. Page 4 of her order. The judge goes over the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia. She says, in Abrego Garcia's case, the immigration judge concluded that he was entitled to amnesty protection because the gang that had been targeting his family's business in El Salvador, targeting him and threatening him with death because of his family's pupusa business. They had some sort of successful business in El Salvador. And that's why they were targeting the kid for kidnapping and making him come into the gang. Department of Human Services DHS never appealed the grant of withholding of removal. Mr. Reuveni, this is from the transcript of her hearing. Mr. Reuveni, quote, the government did not appeal that decision, so it is final. So he admitted that it was a final order not to have him ever removed to El Salvador. Accordingly, as defendants have repeatedly admitted, that would be Reuveni, they were legally prohibited from deporting Abrego Garcia to El Salvador. From the transcript, the judge cites, Mr. Reuveni, there's no dispute that the order could not be used to send Mr. Abrego Garcia to El Salvador. Did you hear that? That's the government lawyer conceding in court, as he had to, in telling the truth. Because that's the business we're in as lawyers. That there's no dispute that the order could not be used to send Mr. Abrego Garcia to El Salvador. I got a note for Todd Blanche. I know you were a criminal defense lawyer. You used to be a U.S. attorney. And you think it's appropriate to order one of your underlings that he needs to, and send the message to everybody else, including Pam Bondi, saying, we've told everybody you must follow my directions. What if your directions run counter to the ethics and the sworn oath this lawyer upheld? You're not the one in the courtroom. He's the one in the courtroom. And what are you conceding? That you lied frequently to federal judges when you were a U.S. attorney, Mr. Blanche? That you lied frequently when you were a criminal defense lawyer to federal judges and state judges? Is that what you're saying? That anything goes? There's no rules? Let's continue. Page 12. Back to Reuveni. Can you see why this guy just got canned by the Trump administration? Why he should be hired immediately by a major big law firm, maybe one of the ones that just cut a deal with Donald Trump as their penance. Here's on page 12 of the transcript. In the end, defendants' redressability arguments ring hollow, as their counsel suggested at the hearing. This is not about defendants' inability to return Abrego Garcia, but their lack of desire. Oh, I'm sure that was the final nail in Mr. Reuveni's coffin for Todd Blanche. That he admitted that they could get him back, but they don't want to, because now they're taking an opposite position in their filings before the courts of appeal. Oh, can't get him back. Marxist judge, president of El Salvador now. Yeah, that's not what the lawyer said. Here's the quote from the transcript. The court, can we talk about then, just very practically, why can't the United States get Mr. Abrego Garcia back? And Mr. Reuveni said, and I'm sure this should go on his tombstone, Your Honor, I will say, for the court's awareness, that when this case landed on my desk, remember, he was the head of the Immigration Litigation Division. The first thing I did was ask my clients that very question. I've not received to date an answer that I find satisfactory. Hearing transcript, page 35 to 36. Counsel seeks 24 hours to persuade the defendants to secure Abrego Garcia's return. Flat refusal, however, does not negate redressability. Abrego Garcia maintains standing to sue. He never got that 24 hours because they fired him before the 24 hours was over. And now there's going to be a new lawyer. I don't know, maybe Drew Ensign, the guy that just got grilled by and had to admit bad faith in the contempt hearing held about violating another court's order at the Judge Boasberg trial, a hearing that went on almost simultaneously. He's going to have, looks like there's an opening, going to hire somebody else. And let me just end the hot take this way. To those that work in the Department of Justice, look at the name above the door where you work. Justice. You're officers of the court. You can't lie to the court, even under penalty of being fired or death. Quit. Resign. If there's not a group of people that are resigning from the Department of Justice now, based on now who they know, now that the mask has been completely ripped off and they know who they work for and what they are obligated to do, there should be a full investigation. And federal judges, when you have these lawyers in front of you, you cannot give them the benefit of the doubt, because they will lie to you at every hearing in order to obtain the results that Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, and Todd Blanche want them to. And with that, they have completely eviscerated all of their credibility. The only thing they have is their virtue and their credibility, and the judge being able to believe that they are officers of the court upholding. Wait till Zennis finds out about this. I'm sure she already has. It was front page New York Times. I'll continue to follow it right here on the MeidasTouch Network. Until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.